What's up, everybody? Tim from Tierfon Orbital. So this is going to be another demo video for a one-off, unique, curved hilt from the mind of Nevin over at Space Junk Sabers. The hilt was sent to me for an install, and once again, I was blown away by the creativity in this hilt. Listen, it's pretty well known that I have an aversion to curved hilts. I think the Saberforge install I did a number of months ago traumatized me for curved hilts, which, listen, it's just become a thing. Curved hilts are what they are. They're just like any other install, really. It's just creating a chassis system for a curved hilt does include some challenges, but I do make exceptions, of course, for special one-off hilts, and this is, of course, a very special hilt because it is from Space Junk Sabers, and it's really, really cool hilt. So we're going to talk about the chassis first, and then we will talk about how to use the hilt, and then we'll do a demo, and we'll be on our way, right? So let's come into Fusion. This is the chassis that I designed for this install. Did my typical greebly work around the outside of the chassis itself. This is a static chassis, so it does secure to the top section of the hilt. So I've got greebly work on each side. I did not do as much greebly work on this side because I did have to put a channel for wire management, and given the inner diameter of the grip, didn't allow me to do a lot of greebly work on both sides, but we've got some venting and stuff on this side. Plenty of room for a 28 millimeter speaker. This speaker is from the Saber Merchant. And Proffie board sits in this tray, and up top is where I make my splices and go to the PCB emitter at the top of the hilt, right? So that's pretty much it. Just a basic rundown on the chassis. Let's come down to the hilt itself. Here it is. So again, curved hilt. This is the first curved hilt that I have seen from Space Junk Sabers. Obviously, it's got its own unique aesthetic, but there's definitely, like, I've gotten to the point now where I can definitely tell when a hilt, I can tell when it comes from Nevin. Obviously, he's got his own style, so you can definitely tell this is a Space Junk hilt, right? So we'll start at the bottom and make our way up. We've got a pommel section. Again, it's hard for me to source the parts that Nevin uses. I'm just not always familiar with where he gets these parts, which, it tells me that he probably machines a lot of this stuff himself, or just finds it from, honestly, this pommel might be from Saberforge. I don't know. But anyway, we've got a D-ring, really, really cool knurled grip. Here is the elbow section. Around each side of the hilt, we've got momentary switches. These are copper momentary switches from Phil Guinness at Kalyminian Customs. We do, of course, have an exposed crystal chamber in this. This crystal looks really, really cool. What I really, really like that Nevin did with this particular crystal chamber is the crystal is sitting in its own copper crystal mount. Just really, really great detail in this hilt. Making our way up to the top, this is, it's a Graflex top of some sort. Right? It's almost Starkiller-esque, this Graflex top. We've got a clamp card around back. Glass eye, something that he did with the glass eye as well. There's some copper mesh behind the glass eye, which looks really, really fantastic. Something that I was able to achieve with this build too is shine through in that glass eye. So the blade actually sits just below. The PCB emitter is right here, so the blade sits below, or the PCB emitter rather sits below this glass eye, so you get shine through there. Graflex pins, really, really cool custom blade plug here. That's also been custom handmade by Nevin, and a red button up top. This is just like a faux red button, right? Really, really, really cool hilt. So let's talk about how to use it, okay? So this is a curved hilt. It is a stationary chassis as well. To get to your chassis, you want to unscrew your grip. So here's the chassis. I did some rub and buff on this chassis. So I printed it off in resin and then taped off some of the greebly areas. Did a pass with buff and rub. This was like copper and ebony buff and rub, like a mixture of both. And I really like using buff and rub, especially on these like hilts that have copper and brass accents. It just helps with the chassis, making the chassis look like it actually was meant to go into this hilt, right? So it's a stationary chassis. It stays in place. Okay, to use the hilt, you want to take your battery. Spring side is your negative, so you want to take the flat part of your battery and put it in the chassis. I always do like to say as well, when you're putting a battery in a chassis, especially a stationary... I can't talk today. When you're putting a battery in a stationary chassis, just kind of cradle it. Make sure you're not, manhandling it too much. Put your battery in, okay? You're going to get an audible cue once you put your battery in, or you activate it on accident like I just did. Put your battery in, okay? Screw your grip on, and you're ready to go. So let's come down to the bottom here. So I have set up the config on this to have different colors in the crystal chamber. Some of them are blinking when the hilt is off, and they'll pulse and then time out, so you're not draining the battery. And others are different. So okay, so if you're looking at the crystal chamber, the button on the left is your aux button. The button on your right is your activation button. So to scroll through fonts, you want to hit your aux.
Sister, I've been trained in binary.
While the hilt is off, you can scroll through fonts that way. Forward, while the hilt is pointing up, you scroll forward in your fonts. If you point the hilt down, it will go backwards in your fonts. And then you hit the main to activate. So there's that crystal chamber, and we've got shine through in that glass eye. Twist to activate and twist to deactivate is also on. So I was able to get a Neopixel in both a top and bottom section of this crystal chamber. So there's Neopixel top, Neopixel bottom. They are their own blade. And then, of course, the main blade is its own blade config in the config, right? Really, really awesome looking crystal chamber. So let's pop a blade in it really quick. So another thing that I really appreciate, that faux red button around back, this also acts as your blade retention. So that's a really, really cool touch that Nevin put into this hilt. Another thing that I need to mention, this is a 7/8 inch blade holder. So this takes a 7/8 inch blade, and I have one up here. Let's put a full length blade in this guy, rather than just a shorty demo. So you put your blade in, make sure it's kind of just resting on those PCB pins, tighten that thumb screw, and then you're ready to go.
Sister.
See what else we got on here. I'm not used to having such a long blade, so I don't want to like knock it into anything. Another thing that I will mention, I'm so used to that twist on, twist off action with Proffie, but holding a curved hilt is a little different to try and activate that twist on, twist off. So to the client, you're gonna have to find that sweet spot where that is. Yeah, let's see. There we go. What else we got? Where's that? So clashes all work. So tap your aux to get clash. To lock up, you want to flash the saber while holding aux. Really, really, really cool. So that crystal does have a cool down effect on some of the fonts, right? Emitter cool down. So that's pretty much it. Sorry, it's so awkward holding a curved hilt, like trying to get the balance of everything right. So to the client, thank you very, very much for trusting me with this build. It's always a pleasure to get one-off hilts in my hand to install and also play with a little bit. So thank you very much for trusting me with your baby. To the viewers, if anyone has any questions about this particular install or the chassis, please don't be a stranger. And with that being said, may the curved hilt be with you always. Thanks for watching, everybody.